welcome to my presentation on why I think electric vehicles are better than gas vehicles. This is my Cas100 A persuasive speech. So, to start off, I would like you to quickly imagine that you are in a car dealership parking lot, and you are maybe a consumer who is considering both gas and electric. But you're not as informed because you've only driven gas vehicles recently, so you don't know what advantages electric vehicles offer. Now imagine I am the salesman who's about to walk up to you and try to convince you to buy an electric vehicle because this is a persuasive essay. So who am I? My name is Clay. I am a rigorous researcher, and my family has owned both gas and electric vehicles, so I have gotten to form opinions on both and drive both, so I think my opinion is kind of valid because of that, but not super valid because I'm not like a professional or anything. I believe EVs to be better for three main reasons. One, they're cheaper. Two, they're easier to repair, and they're simpler and more functional and efficient. And three, they have come a long way in the past 15 years. They're no longer the smart car. They're kind of cool now. So you'll save money if you buy an electric vehicle. That's my first reason. So you'll save money for a couple of reasons. The first one that I think is interesting is because of government rebates. You can save quite a bit of money because sometimes the government wants to pay you to drive an electric vehicle. Of course, there are also fewer repairs, so to put it into perspective how fewer like moving parts and how less complicated an electric vehicle is compared to a gas vehicle. A gas vehicle's drive chain is going to have 2,000 moving parts on average, whereas an electric vehicle's drive chain is going to have around 20. So it's a lot simpler. It's a lot less likely to fail because of that. Electricity is currently cheaper than gasoline and diesel too, especially if you charge at home. You get around like 4 times of a better rate if you charge at home compared to a charger, and you can even get a better rate than that if you negotiate with your electric company to charge at home during non-peak hours where the grid isn't in use. And then if you don't want to take my word for it, there is also peer-reviewed data on the matter. A study published in an energy journal found that in as little as 5 years, the higher upfront cost of buying an EV compared to a gas vehicle was recouped. In as little as 5 years due to the cheaper repairs and the cheaper fuel and the fewer repairs. So second, EVs are an extremely functional, simple, reliable, and consistent means of transport. So there's much fewer moving parts in EV, as I explained. They're much easier to repair too because there's much fewer parts. They're less likely to fail. There's a lower center of gravity compared to a gas vehicle due to the massive battery directly under you, which is pretty nice. It keeps you glued to the road. I was in a rollover in a gas vehicle, so I kind of value that level of safety. And there's also super fast acceleration. That's why there's a go-kart on my slide. It makes driving them, like if you have to merge or anything, you can get up the speed super quick. So yeah, last reason is that they've come a long way in the past decade and a half. And that's a picture of the Slate truck, which is a $25,000 EV pickup truck with a 200-mile base range. I think that's really cool. So yeah, they're not like the tiny smart car anymore that costs 50 grand to go 30 miles. There are significant range gains in the past 15 years. So Edmunds, which is an independent research platform for automobiles, they don't take data from the manufacturers, they collect their own. They found that the 2012 Tesla Model S got 139 miles of range on average, brand new. And then Energy Star, which is an EPA-funded automobile research company, they found that the Chevy Bolt got 259 miles of range on average. The 2021 Chevy Bolt, not even the 2027 one. So in 9 years, the range nearly doubled. And the cost actually split in half because the Tesla Model S was worth $60,000 when you first got it, and the Chevy Bolt was worth around $30,000. The charging infrastructure has gotten a lot better. before there was a lot more gas stations compared to chargers, but now like everyone who owns a vehicle has a charger in their house, and then there's also more chargers out in the wild, and they're much more reliable and easy to use. So yeah, and the biggest one is that they are much better, and they're much better and cheaper entry-level options now compared to 15 years ago. So there are some drawbacks though. This is pretty much just a nose slide for me, but the first one is the suspension. In the Chevy Bolts at least, the suspension tends to be pretty like rough. If you ever hit a bump, you kind of go whoosh, and you really hit those bumps. There is sometimes a charging wait. You know, if you don't charge at home overnight, it will take you 45 minutes to charge at a charger from zero. So, but my philosophy is that if you've driven far enough to have to charge, if you've drained a 300-mile battery charge in one go, then you also need that 45 minutes to recharge yourself. It's not just your car that needs a break. And if you're driving under 300 or under 150 miles, so you can go there and back, then you can just charge at home and save a whole bunch of money. There's no big noise. Gas vehicles roar. That's cool. Electric vehicles don't do that. And there are seasonal performance gaps. In the winter, batteries are worse because it's colder. So my Chevy Bolt, or my parents' Chevy Bolt, has like a 320 mile, 310 mile range at full during the summer, and then during the winter it'll maybe get like 270 just because it's colder and the battery's less efficient. So to recap, there are a whole bunch of reasons to buy electric vehicles, but there are also benefits to gas vehicles too. So there are many advantages for consumers, but only if you have a reason to be consuming. If you have a perfectly functional gas vehicle, I think you should stick with that and save the money for later, because new options are probably going to be better, and you don't know what the electric market's going to hold. Maybe they'll produce stuff with even more bang for your buck. So in conclusion, maybe it's time to give them a go. There's many advantages compared to the internal combustion engine vehicle in savings and functionality and just how far they've come in the past 15 years. It's not the smart car anymore. And though the gas vehicle has been tried and tested for 120 years, I think the electric vehicle has some distance under its wheels at this point. And even though your grandpa didn't drive one, maybe it's time you give one a go. Thank you.